Welcome to my Pacific Division predictions. I'm just determined to get these done. The Central will be next and last. The Atlantic and the Metro I have in my playlist, or I'll put up links if you want to click on those at your leisure. Now, you have to excuse me, the last month and a half, 2 months of my life have been turned upside down, partly because of this injury. I just got the stitches out not long ago, but the good news is that I've much more flexibility in my hand now, and I can even drive my manual stick shift. So, whoopee! Now, I have a couple of YouTubers who are helping me out in this video who will be guest starring, who specialize in a few teams. Keep in mind that I got their footage just before the NHL season began, so they don't have the sort of hindsight that I have, 2 or so weeks in. But that's where I'll add my 2 cents to grease the wheels just a little bit. In saying that, let's begin. Number 8, the San Jose Sharks. Yeah, I know, they're 4-1. They're off to a really hot start right now. Logan Couture, Timo Meier, Erik Karlsson, youngster Jonathan Dahlen, they're all helping out offensively. The goaltending's even better. But don't you think the boat anchor is going to drop at any time here? Now, last season, offensively, they were 25th. Defensively, 30th. The power play was 29th, and the PK was 14th. Not bad. But the prospect and pick cupboard is kind of bare. And when it comes to trade deadline, don't you think they got to think about flipping Timo Meier to the highest bidder? If they want to turn this into a retool that lasts only a couple of years as opposed to a rebuild, especially with some of those bigger contracts they have, I think they got to consider it. But let's shuffle over to YouTuber Nick Pinkerton of Twisted Wrister Hockey, and a writer for the Hockey Writers, for his side of the coin and his predictions on where he'll think they'll finish.
The San Jose Sharks have missed the playoffs the past 2 seasons, and I do expect that to continue this year. However, I'm starting to see a bit of a youth resurgence in that lineup. First and foremost, William Eklund, the 7th overall draft pick from this past draft. He has looked wonderful in training camp. He's been scoring goals and contributing to all sorts of offensive chances out there. So he's going to be in the lineup most likely. You also have Jasper Weatherby out there too. The Sharks are a little bit different in goal, let's not forget. So they have Adin Hill from the Arizona Coyotes and James Reimer, who also has played for the Sharks before. They are now the 1-2 punch there, sort of 1A, 1B. I don't expect them to put up Jennings Trophy caliber numbers, but nonetheless, they should fare a little bit better than what we saw from Martin Jones and Devin Dubnyk this past season. So for the Sharks, I still expect them to be sort of a bottom feeder in that division, but I wouldn't be surprised if they finished anywhere as high as I would say 5th.
Number 7, the Anaheim Ducks. They're a somewhat respectable 2-3-1 so far in the season. I mean, last year they were 31st on offense, 23rd on defense, 31st on the power play, and 16th on the penalty kill. They went out and got some new assistant coaches in the offseason, but it makes me wonder how patient ownership is going to be with this group, meaning the GM and the head coach, before they pull the plug. Now, I think they should be patient, especially if they move some of their big-ticket UFAs before the trade deadline for prospects and picks. And I'm talking about players like Raquel, Delorier, Getzlaf, Mason, Lindholm. Well, maybe not Delorier. He helps keep the flies off the kids. But you know what I mean. Keep the boat going in the right direction, and maybe in a minimum 2 years, they could be looking at getting into the playoffs again. I still feel sorry for John Gibson. Number 6, the Seattle Kraken. I'm missing the sticker there, but thanks for noticing. Now, this team looks like one big third line to me. Albeit a good one, and on paper, the defense and the goaltending look good. But they've really stumbled out of the gate, haven't they? They're 1-4-1 to start, and I just don't see enough scoring on this club. There's no stars, there's no elite players. And I know Vegas didn't have any either, and look where they are. I don't think the Kraken will have the same luck. But let's go to my pal Nick Pinkerton of Twisted Wrister Hockey for his spin and Kraken prediction.
The Seattle Kraken are built on defense and goaltending first and foremost. So you've got that tandem of Grubauer and Drieger. Grubauer, of course, was a finalist for the Vezina Trophy this past season. And then that beef on the blue line, guys like Jamie Alexiak, Adam Larson, Carson Soucy, they should be pretty successful at limiting the number of chances that opponents will get out there. Of course, you've got Mark Giordano as well in a one-year contract or a one-year situation. They don't really have any studs when it comes to forwards, but they do have a couple of guys like Jared McCann and even Mason Appleton who broke out a little bit last season. They'll get more opportunities with this team. You've got Eberle, who's going to be counted on a lot when it comes to the power play. Jaden Schwartz will be looking to rebound as well. I think that this team is overall well composed. I think Ron Francis has done a good job there, and I think Seattle's going to be in playoff contention for a majority of this season. I don't see them finishing any lower than 4th in this weak division, and I think they could even challenge for as high as 2nd.
Number 5, the LA Kings. Another team off to a rough start, right? They're 1-4-1, but I could see this club turning the corner with all the injection of youth and veteran additions into the lineup. Just look at Deneau, who's been able to take some of the shutdown responsibilities away from Kopitar, who's reaping the benefits offensively right now. Not to mention Arvidsson, who's been added to his wing, and then Edler at defense, who should all help take some of the pressure off of the Kitties. Starting on defense, we'll see if Anderson and Bjornfoot could take a step this season. With the forward group, we're talking about Velarde, Kalev, and Byfield. Of course, he's recovering from an ankle injury. Now, offensively, they were 27th last season, 21st defensively, 19th on the power play, and 7th on the penalty kill. I could see them sinking one spot, maybe even 2, but I could also picture them squeaking into the playoffs this season. Number 4, the Calgary Flames. They're off to a decent start. They're 3-1-1, but I'm just still not sure what this team's identity is supposed to be, right? I thought they were going to be good last year. Offensively, they were 20th, defensively 16th. Their power play was 21st, and the PK was 15th. Tkachuk and Mangiapane, they'll be RFAs with arbitration rights. Gaudreau will be a UFA at the end of this season. Monahan has only one more year left on his contract, and he's currently centering the 4th line. The special teams needs a bit of work, especially the power play. I mean, Coleman was a nice add, albeit expensive. Vladar, obviously he's still unproven in the NHL. I question the additions of Zadorov and Gabranson. Maybe they'll be more effective in the playoffs, but they're like number 6, 7 guys. And will some of the youngsters, how much ice time will they see? Now I know Valimaki is playing, but I'm talking about like Mackey or Zary or Gaudin or Phillips or Rosinka. I can see the Flames falling out of the playoffs, maybe by, falling into that 5th or 6th spot even. Maybe they could climb up one. I mean, Markstrom seems to be on a good roll. Gaudreau and Lindholm are really clicking right now, as is Mangiapane. Who knows with these guys? Number 3, the Vancouver Canucks. They're 3-2-1 so far, but they also had a rough year last season. Offensively, they were 26th. Ditto defensively. Their power play was 25th, and the PK was 17th. Of course, they went through a bunch of injuries, including the Pedersen. The whole team had COVID, etc., etc. Travis Green, you could say this year is on a bit of a hot seat, though, because Benning went out and made some decent additions. Garland, OEL, Podolskin, the prospect, Dickinson, Halak. It's the depth of that defense that I have some questions about. I could see them maybe finishing as high as 2nd in this division because of how weak it is, but I can also picture them just barely falling out of the playoff picture. For more insight in this, including his prediction, let's go to Clay Emu, YouTuber of the channel Canuck Clay.
The Canucks are looking to erase the memory of last year's dog's breakfast of a season, and I think they have the personnel to do it. Up front, newcomers Connor Garland and Jason Dickinson join an already strong group of forwards led by Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser, Bo Horvat, JT Miller, and youngsters Niels Höglander and Vasily Podkolzin. On the blue line, Oliver Ekman-Larsson brings his leadership and his big contract to join the club, and he joins Quinn Hughes as the marquee players on the back end. And in goal, you have Thatcher Demko, one of the darlings of the league, backed up by veteran Yaroslav Halak. I fully expect the Canucks to compete for a playoff spot and finish 3rd in the Pacific, only behind Vegas and Edmonton.
Number 2, the Edmonton Oilers. They're 5-0-0, undefeated so far this season. They were already good last season. On offense, they were 7th, defense 12th. Power play was 1st. Their penalty kill was 9th. Holland made some nice additions to round out that forward group like Hyman and Fogali and Ryan. I wonder if Benson and McLeod, point per game AHLers, will see any ice time though. Bouchard on defense is really taking a step this season. It's the Keith and Cece pairing. I know they're okay right now, but they're really a third pairing group. And then there's Mike Smith. You sign a 40-year-old to a 2-year contract. I know last year he was amazing, but that was an outlier. How many people really expected that, right? And at the very least, you gotta give him someone better to play with besides Koskinen. I know they swung and struck out on Kemper, but there were some other goalies who could have been had at cheap prices like Ranta and Mrazek, Hill, Reimer, maybe even Bernier. I could see them finishing first in this week's division. I could also picture them not falling lower than third. In the end, it's all about the playoffs and what they do there and what Holland can do to plug some holes before they get there. Number 1, the Vegas Golden Knights. Yes, I seem crazy at the moment because they started the year 1-4-0. But last year, they were third on offense, first on defense, 22nd on the power play, first at the penalty kill. The same old story with them is their center depth. You know, they get heard of in those Eichel rumors. I think they might pull the trigger on something at some point because they've got a ton of injuries, which is why they've been sucking bag right now. Their best players, Pacioretty and Stone, are out of the lineup. Not to mention Martinez and Tuck and Whitecloud and Patrick. It just goes on. Fleury's gone. Can Leonard be a steady guy in the crease? Brossoit is backing him up, and he's Mr. Good year, bad year, good year, bad year. You don't want to know what this one is so far. They went and added Patrick and Dadonov. Those are a bit of risky moves to me. They're like Band-Aids. And they need some greasy scoring in the playoffs because it seems like in the second and third round they just run out of it no matter who's in the lineup. And then we look at prospects like Krebs has been playing some games so far. But will we see Dugan or Elves in the lineup at some point? Both of them are wingers. I don't think Vegas will fall out of the playoffs, even with these injuries. I don't see them finishing lower than 4th, but I can still see them crawling back to the number 1 spot, especially if they're healthy. It's how far they can go in that extra season that really counts right now. That's it, that's all. But before I go, I really wanted to thank YouTubers Nick Pinkerton from Twisted Wrister Hockey and Clay Emo from CANUCK Clay for helping me with their insight in this video. I really appreciate it, guys. You'll find their links to their social media down in the description box below. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, which will alert you when my next video comes out, which will be about my fantastically late Central Division predictions. You can also support the channel and me through BuyMeACoffee.com. You'll find links on my YouTube page or down below. Please be kind to each other out there in this crazy world we're living in right now, and I'll see you soon.